G'day Crustacean Nation, Surfronalot here with another video. Today we're going to be setting up this tank for some Neocaridina shrimp or cherry shrimp, and I'm going to run you through what I'm going to do and what I'm going to use. So this is a 60 litre tank. It's 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters by 60 centimeters. It's a really cool tank. It's actually like handmade or custom made, I guess, in a way, so it's really awesome that I got a chance to grab this. It was also really cheap. It's a bit shorter than my Caridina shrimp tank, but that's fine. I'm really happy with it. It's really crystal clear. I did actually have a second-hand tank here before, which I removed, but I thought this would be a much better tank, and I reckon I'm going to get some cool shrimp going. So I plan to stock either black cherry shrimp or black roses, or maybe my blue dreams that I have in my guppy tank. I'm tossing up between those two. I need to look into getting those black roses and see how they go. But either way, this setup will work for any cherry shrimp or any Neocaridina, so red cherries, yellow cherries, red realies, anything like that. Green jades will also be fine in here. This is just a very basic, very typical cherry shrimp tank. So when it comes to substrates for cherry shrimp, you want to stick with something that's inert, so something like sand or gravel that won't change the water parameters. Works really well. So I went with this Plata sand. I was actually going to use this in an aquascape, but I decided not to, and now I'm using it in this, and I think it's going to be much better in here for my shrimp. You can also use gravel. I have gravel that I was tempted to use, but I'm not using, but any kinds of gravel, any colour. My tip is just try and make it the opposite colour, or a colour that really shows off the shrimp. So if I'm getting black or blue shrimp, this whiter sand will definitely show it off a bit more. If you're getting, yellow shrimp, you may want a darker sand or something like that. As for decorations, I'm going to be using these inert rocks, so once again, rocks that won't change the water parameters. With Neocaridina shrimp, you can use rocks that will change it slightly. You just got to make sure it doesn't change too drastically. You can also use wood, like cholla wood or other driftwood, if you do feel like using something a bit woodier. At the moment, I'm just going to be using the rocks. I'm going to keep it very minimum. I may add some actual shrimp hides, like some little tubes and things in the future, but at the moment, we're just sticking with the rocks. Another thing you can use for decorations is obviously plants. So I'm going to be using some Java moss. There's all different kinds of mosses and plants you can use. As long as it grows in the tank, you should be fine. There's nothing that's going to cause harm to the shrimp. But things with a lot of cover and a lot of bushiness are always going to be better for shrimp. Another optional item you have is these little glass bowls, or little bowls in general. You can use terracotta ones like clay ones, or glass or plastic. This is for feeding your shrimp, so if you want to maybe take photos or get a good view of them, you can put this at the front of your tank and feed them. So I'll be using this little glass bowl, pretty cheap on like eBay or something like that, or you can go for the clay bowl or something like that if you're interested. As for filtration, I'm going with this double sponge filter here. This is the Pisces one. It's really awesome. I use it in this tank just here. As you can see, runs pretty well. And to go with that, you are going to need an air pump. So I'm using the Tetra 100 air pump. Once again, use it over in this tank and everything seems to run pretty well. We do have a little heater down here. It's just the Aqua 155 watt. I do plan on buying some more heaters. This was the only one that would reach my power point, so I'm going with that for the moment. But by the time I get the shrimp, I'll probably have a different heater anyway. And as for lighting, we have this really cheap eBay light. It's like 120 centimeters long, so it covers both these tanks really well. It works crazily well, as you can see. A lot of algae. Good sign that a light's doing a good job. But no, it's a really good light, and for the price, it's like $50 or something on eBay, and it's been going pretty well. And yeah, pretty happy with it. So if you are looking for a cheaper light, definitely go check out eBay. So first of all, I'm going to start off by washing out this sand and then clearing the tank out and putting the sand in. So I've just put all the sand in here, and as you can see, it's really dusty. If I mix it around a bit, it kicks up a bit of dust. It's really fine sand as well, so it's going to be a lot of dust to get out of it, but that's what we do. My number one tip for washing sand is do it outside, obviously, and do it near your garden so you can actually use the water for good. And I'm going to go ahead and start washing this out. So I've done about 6 loads so far. It is getting a slight bit clearer, but it is taking quite a while. So don't be afraid if it is taking a while. It will get to a point where it does clear up. But as you can see, this is still super cloudy. You can't really see my hand if I put it in there. I'll stir it up a bit more. Yeah, it gets pretty cloudy pretty quickly. So I finally cleared out most of the sand. It is still slightly cloudy, but I'm not fussed by the slight cloudiness. This isn't going to be a fast flowing tank, and it's not going to be a real show tank, so if there is a bit of cloudiness for the first few days, it's not a big worry for me at all. So the next step is to put that sand into the tank. This sand should go about 4 centimeters deep according to what it said on the bag, so it should fit my tank really well. I will probably use all of it because I may as well. And yeah, let's get onto it. When it comes to putting sand into your tank, there's a few options you have. You can just pour it in if you have the space for it. I do not. You can use a little cup like I'm going to, or you can just use your bare hands. Depends how dirty you want to get. But yeah, I like using a little cup because you can really get a sense of how much you're putting in and make sure it's going to the right area a bit more, and sort of get it right from the start. Just simply take a scoop like this, shake it down a little bit. You will get some drips and some splashes, but that's alright. And in it goes. So I do have quite a bit of sand left in the bucket, but I thought I'd better spread out this sand and see how it goes. I will be using just my hands, but you can get all sorts of different aquascaping tools to sort of flatten it out and spread it around without getting your hands all sandy. So another tip I have is to slope your sand or your gravel from the back to the front. So the back here is on the higher slope, and then it's lower at the front. That way it just makes your tank look a bit bigger, and it gives it some height at the back, which is always nice. And there we have it. Very simple, very minimal. I'm not going for a real fancy thing. I'm definitely going to be adding some more plants in here though. I think I can do some pretty good stuff with some plants. Get something maybe like hornwort or something growing off the back just to fill in that area. I would also recommend a black background for most shrimp. Like I said, I am going to be getting some darker shrimp, so I don't think I will put a background in here. But I think, a background like I have over here, where it just sort of fades into the darkness, is really nice. And there's multiple ways of doing that. You can spray paint the back of the tank, you can get a piece of paper, put it back there, you can get a piece of foam. As long as it's black and it sort of lines up well with the glass, that works really well. But I won't be doing that, like I said. So I did go ahead and put the little bowl in here as well. I put it right at the front there, and it's also on a bit of a slope, so if I want to take photos from this end, I'll get a good view, and I can also take them from down there. So obviously we're still missing some things. We're going to need the filter, the heater, the Java moss that I want to put in here, and obviously the shrimp. I won't be adding the shrimp this video, I'll be doing that in the future. I'll let this tank cycle for a while, but I'll talk about that more in a second. So I'm using rainwater for my tank. A few reasons for this. I have pretty clean water, or rainwater, in my area, so it's nice to be able to use some free water. It's also good because you can remineralize it and get the perfect TDS that you want. I won't actually be doing that myself with this water. I will be adding some tap water in the future, but I sort of had this ready to go, so I thought may as well just use it how it is. When you first set up your tank like this, you can also mineralize the water when it's in the tank, so you don't have to worry about doing it outside of the tank, so you can fill it all the way up with RO or rainwater, and then remineralize it as you see fit. Also, don't be worried if your sand and stuff does get mixed up. You can easily go in there and fix it up with your hand. It's bound to happen when you're putting in a big amount of water like this. And as always, you can use a bucket or a hose or anything like that to fill it up. If you are using tap water, just make sure you dechlorinate it with some water conditioner of any kind. So I just had to fill up my tubs. As you can see, they're up there, pumping out the water. Together they make 25 litres, so it takes about 2 trips for them to fill up this tank. As you can see in my little interval there, I added in some bigger gravel chunks. I just thought they would sort of fit in there really nicely, provide a bit more cover for the baby shrimps, which means hopefully some more breeding. I also put a bit of driftwood in there that I haven't used for ages, so I thought I'd better use it in some tank. So it's in there. You can see some things floating around. They came in with the gravel, so I'm going to start picking them out and making sure there's none of that floating around. So there we have it. Added in the filter, the heater, and a bit of Java moss just to finish it off. It's looking pretty good. It's slightly cloudy because I didn't fully wash the sand, but there's a good tip: fully wash the sand, don't stop until it's crystal clear. It'll be fine though either way. So now it's all set up, I'm going to let it cycle in for a few weeks. It's really important that you cycle your tanks. Your shrimp will eat biofilm and bacteria and algae that grows in the tank. So they'll grow on any surface really, on your glass, on your rocks, on your substrate, on your filters. And your shrimp will love eating that stuff, and it's probably their #1 food source. So make sure you cycle your tank in, and you want it kind of looking manky, much like this tank. It doesn't look necessarily great on the eye. I kind of like it. It looks kind of green and cool, but there's a lot of algae and you can tell there's a lot of biofilm and whatnot just because I let this tank cycle for like 2 months. So you do want it looking not as crystal clear. Obviously you can do it with it being crystal clear, but it is just a bit harder. You're more likely to have some shrimp death, so I do recommend letting it sit for a while. Another reason I need to let it sit for a while is because I haven't decided on what shrimp I'm having or where I'm going to get them from and whatnot, so I can't just go ahead and buy them out of nowhere. I do know obviously I'm keeping Neocaridina shrimp, so we'll see what comes out of that. So this has been a bit of a how-to set up your shrimp tank. Once again, for Neocaridina, so red cherry shrimp, yellow cherry shrimp, black rose, green jades, orange shrimp, whatever, sun-kissed, all that sort, all those different variants of Neocaridina shrimp. This will work great for, once again, you can swap out the gravel or the substrate or the sand with different colours and stuff like that. Just make sure it's inert. Try and make sure the rocks and everything else you add in there is inert. The wood will change a bit of your water, but it's not enough to really affect the shrimp. And yeah, just keep an eye on your water parameters. I haven't really talked about water parameters much, but you do want to keep the TDS around 250 of a mixture of KH and GH. You can, like I said earlier, remineralize the water if you want. For me personally, I can use my tap water for these guys. The TDS comes out pretty good for them, and I've kept blue dreams and red cherry shrimps fine in my tap water. Like I said, just aim for that TDS of 250. You can purchase yourself one of these little TDS meters. You just turn it on there, and then you pop it in, and it should give you a current reading. And so it's reading 64 at the moment, so I do need to go ahead and remineralize this a bit. Like I said, I did use rainwater and I didn't really touch it just because I know I'm cycling for a while, but I will go ahead and up that a little bit in the future. So I hope you learned something from this. I hope you are getting into shrimp keeping. Maybe this is the first video you've seen. Definitely stick around and subscribe if you are interested in seeing more about shrimp. I do have some older setting up videos as well you may want to check out. Maybe there's more info in there, I don't know. But I do think I'll start doing some more videos on specifics when it comes to shrimp tanks. So, your TDS, your KH, your GH, inert substrates and why you need them and things like that. But for the moment, this is sort of a broader topic of just setting up a tank. So I really hope you get into the shrimp hobby and you really enjoy them. Definitely start off on Neocaridina and then move on to Caridina. For me, that's how I started, and I found Caridina to be pretty easy going, which is really good. But Neocaridina are super easy if you just make sure you cycle the tank, and don't do massive water changes. Do like small water changes every week or so, and you should be fine. Last but not least, tank mates. You can keep tank mates with these shrimp. Just make sure they're not going to be big enough to eat the shrimp. I keep my shrimp, some of my shrimp with betta fish and some of my shrimp with guppies, and sometimes it depends on the fish, the individual fish, and sometimes it depends on the species. I wouldn't recommend keeping shrimp with Oscars, for example, but keeping them with guppies also brings up some issues because the guppies like to peck at little things, so you may lose some babies and you may not have as much success as you want. So if you do want to just purely breed the shrimp, I recommend just keeping shrimp. If you want to maybe do a tank for profit, you can do guppies and shrimp. Just don't expect a lot of shrimp all the time. And if you are interested in keeping some other kind of fish, comment down below and we can have a bit of a discussion about it and see if it will work out with your shrimp. So that'll have to do it for today's video. I'm very, very excited to get this tank going. I can't wait to get some shrimpies for it. I'll probably have some updates for it in the future. Let me know what you think of it down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.